Welcome. Welcome to the Covestro Home Office Talks. We are live again, and thanks for joining us. We broadcast live to you from my home office in Cologne, Germany, and this is now the 8th episode of Home Office Talks. We started this at the beginning of the corona pandemic, and really now this seems to be the way how communications is in the new normal. So every week we talk with inspiring people who master these times and contributing to resolve these common issues despite of Corona, and more often also leveraging Corona as a chance to do even better. You can check out previous episodes of Home Office Talks on YouTube. Today our guest is Jacob Duer, the CEO of a relatively young global non-profit organization, the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. It was founded in 2018 with a mission to end environmental pollution through mismanaged plastic waste. Covestro is a founding member. And as a Finn, I have to say, Jacob is also a fellow Nordic citizen, originally from Denmark, so we could both start talking Swedish, but don't worry, we won't. As always, you can be a part of this live conversation by writing questions in the stream. We'll pick up some of these questions towards the end of the conversation for you to chat with us. So, let's see if we have the line open to sunny Singapore, where we should see Jacob working from his home office. And there he is. Jacob, good to see you. Warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Nico, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be on one of your talks.
Cool. So, Jacob, we met earlier this year in Davos at the World Economic Forum, where you engage with leaders to promote the mission of the Alliance. And I know I was there. Many leaders from politics and the private sector showed very high interest around this very collaborative effort. And still, today, there is no chance to do this on a personal level, on a personal conversation. So, Jacob, how are you dealing with this?
That's absolutely true. Back in January in Davos, there was a lot of, and there continues to be a lot of interest in the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. But the world has changed significantly since January, and we, like any other organization, are impacted by the coronavirus. So like most businesses around the world, also we are working from home here in Singapore, where we are building up our headquarters right now. And I have to say, building up a new organization without having people around you is quite a unique experience. We are doing interviews remotely, we are onboarding people remotely. So I can only say that we look forward to having everyone in the same offices here. Having said that, we also see the fact that we are working from home and maybe also being not in a position to travel to create opportunities for us, in the sense that I'm having maybe more conversations with the CEOs of our member companies and with future members. Instead of having face-to-face meetings, which are often very difficult to get, it's a lot easier now under the new normal to get video conference conversations and meetings set up. So we are trying to write the best out of a very difficult situation for all of us.
So, Jacob, that's certainly promising to hear that there are downsides, but there are also upsides. Can you talk a little bit more about how Corona has affected the mission of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste?
I mean, our mission is part of our name, End Plastic Waste in the Environment. And in many ways, that has not changed because of the coronavirus. I would say it has actually amplified the importance of addressing the issue of waste management in the broader context. What it means for us more specifically is that in the countries where we are operating right now, Indonesia, India, Vietnam, and elsewhere, we are seeing a bit of a slowdown in our project implementation. Many of the countries are particularly impacted by the coronavirus, and of course that has an impact on our ability to deliver through our partners. We are hoping that the situation will be over soon, and we are getting ready for being back on the ground with our partners and supporting all our efforts there. We're also using the opportunity, I think, of not being able to travel to take a step back and look at where is it we want to be as an alliance in 1 year from now, in 3 years, in 5 years. What are the type of projects and programs that we want to build up? So while we can't travel and can't really start the launch of new projects, we are trying to build a bigger ambition for the Alliance with the support of our member companies. And member companies is in reality what drives the Alliance. In just 12 months, we have grown from 25 members to almost 50 member companies with a budget of $1 billion. $1 billion has been raised in just 12 months, and we are looking at expanding our membership as we go ahead, and that will also mean expanding our budget. Our focus is on 4 pillars, and we have used the last months to get our strategy finalized and adopted by our board, and we are looking at investments in infrastructure. And for us, infrastructure means investments in integrated waste management systems. We are looking at investments in innovation. What is it that we need to have in place in order to move to a circular economy, in order to have better recycling systems in place, whether we are talking mechanical recycling or advanced recycling. But we also understand that we need to engage with communities. We need to educate and engage with those that are impacted the most by plastic and waste in the broader sense sitting in the environment. And ultimately, we do have a responsibility and a commitment also to make sure that the waste that's already in the environment, and the plastic waste in particular, that we get that out. So it's challenging times, it's hard times for all of us, but we are forging ahead, and we are ready to run the second that the measures around the world are being relaxed and we can be back on the ground with our partners to address the issue and stop the leakage of plastic waste into the environment.
Thanks, Jacob. And I think certainly the coronavirus, and as it changes the behavior of people and how they deal also with materials, the infrastructural systems of countries are now under stress because of the restrictions of movements. And we know that the problems of mismanaged plastic, they arise from poor management after its use. So it could be non-existent infrastructure to collect and process the waste. It could be missing recycling technologies, as you just said, were now being developed. Or as it's often the case, which I often see also traveling on the seas, that people discard waste, including plastics, carelessly. But now we see plastic is needed also for acute needs. I mean, we see the face mask, we see the medical devices, which are plastics. So what's going to happen with that? What's going to happen with the masks? Are we going to be seeing more pollution out of the medical use?
Well, first of all, I need to underline what you have just said, that the problem is really the waste management, that we're operating in a world where more than 2 billion people, they don't have access to waste sorting or waste collection facilities. 3 billion people, they don't have access to waste disposal places, ending up in dump sites instead. In one of the countries where we are working, Indonesia, only 3% of the households have access to formal waste collection systems. And I think that reflects and describes in many ways the size of the problem that we are faced with, that when there are no waste management systems in place, households, family, individual citizens, there is nowhere to go with the waste and leaving it in the environment. And that's the core of the problem. And that's when we're looking at it also from a circularity perspective. That's the part where we are saying that's the weakest link of the value chain, and we need to invest in that. Having said that, of course, with the COVID situation right now, we do realize and understand that there is an increased need in the health sector for masks, PPEs, and other elements. That's part of protecting the individuals that are in hospitals or those that are working in those facilities. And with the increased use, there's an increased waste associated with it. And there are some numbers that are talking about a 7-fold increase in the waste from the health sector. And while that is an increase and while that is important and we need to focus on that, we have to make sure that we are not losing sight of the bigger problem. And that is the waste management systems, not only for health sector waste, but for the broader waste agenda. It's about not losing sight about addressing the issue of the Sustainable Development Goals under the United Nations. It's about not losing sight of where we want to be. So while there is an emergency that we are part of, and I think our work is being underlined in terms of the importance by the COVID situation, we need to ensure that our investments increase and that our investments are in not only fixing a problem today, but making sure that the world is faced with addressing any other disaster or any other pandemic that may come our way in the years to come. So investments are required in integrated waste management systems, not only in addressing the spike in the waste that's coming out of the health sector today.
Thanks, Jacob. So keeping the eye on the picture, I agree, must remain the focus also in these times. And so it's clear we need to move from taking making and wasting paradigm into a circular model, as you explained, where really nothing is wasted. Certainly a concept with a global impact, and also a huge transition and an opportunity. So if we look at the Alliance, how can the Alliance help master this transition from a more linear into a more circular economy? What do you think?
So what makes the Alliance unique in many ways is that we are composed of members across the entire plastic value chain. So our members represent the chemicals and the petrochemicals industry and sector. Our members represent the brands and the retailers. Our members represent the converters, the recyclers, the waste management companies. And for the first time, we're able to bring those actors together around the table in trying to define and develop new solutions, trying to deploy these solutions and ultimately also scale them. And what they want and what they're looking at is not only to prevent the leakage of plastic waste into the environment, but equally much, how can we bring the value of the plastic that today is being lost back into the economy? And if we are putting numbers on this, it's estimated that the value that ends up of the plastic that ends up in the environment today is between 80 and 120 billion dollars. That's a lot of resources that could be invested and used elsewhere. So that's why we believe that our contribution and our investments and grants and activities that we are carrying out with our partners, both our member companies, but also working with civil society, working with government, working with development institutions under the United Nations, international development banks, venture capital, private equity, you name it, all of that combined effort in one holistic approach can bring that value not only back into the economy, but bring it back in the most efficient way. So how do we move from the linear to the circular economy? We can only do that if we do that in partnership with others and if we work on all the different parts of the value chain. Our particular focus is on the waste part, but we need to use our work to contribute to the much wider discussion that takes place around plastic in the plastic value chain. We need to optimize the front-end design. We need to optimize the packaging. We need to optimize the recycling. And if we are successful in optimizing each part of that value chain, then we can truly move to a circular economy also for plastics.
Thanks, Jacob. So I think what you mentioned about the number of actors in the Alliance is truly a very, very unique asset. So let's talk a little bit about the time aspect, because COVID-19 has showed how quickly companies and societies can act. Sometimes within weeks, sometimes within days. It's a constant discussion. How quickly do we act? But now let's talk about the timelines. How quickly do you believe, reflecting on how quickly they have acted regarding the COVID-19, how quickly do you believe we can increase the speed of getting more circular in plastics?
I mean, it's been amazing, I think, for all of us to see how quick responses have come from, in particular, the private sector, but of course also from governments and civil society to the COVID-19 situation. And I think not only are we faced with a challenge and a big challenge that has an impact on all of us, no matter where we sit in the world, but what has brought that about is also that they are working towards one goal, and they're doing that in partnership. And I think that's something in the area of plastic waste that we can also learn from. If we work towards one goal and if we work with partners and the right partners towards that goal, then we can be successful. How quickly will we be? Well, we won't be as quick as we want to, but we are certain that this is a problem that can be fixed and will be fixed. And with the right actors on board and with the right partners, we are confident that over the next 12 months, we will start to see an impact of the investments and the solutions that we are bringing forward, and that will only increase over time. I hope to see, honestly, that by the end of this year, we will be able to present some great numbers to you saying we have contributed to preventing the leakage of a certain number of metric tons of plastic waste into the environment, etc., etc. The COVID does slow it down a bit now, but we will be able to accelerate our efforts as soon as the borders and the travel opportunities open up for us again.
Thanks, Jacob. So that's, I think, very promising, and of course encouraging to see that maybe we can even strongly now focus to end plastic waste, also as it is in the name of the organization. So, Jacob, thank you very much for sharing your time from Singapore and sharing your insights. Let's see whether we have any questions from our wonderful audience, our wonderful stream. So let's see what we have. We do have a question from Kaushendra Shukla. And sorry for my Finnish pronunciation of your name, Kaushendra. She is asking, I would be much interested knowing your presence and activities in India. Jacob.
So India obviously is a very important country for us in terms of our activities, and we already have a number of projects ongoing in India at the Ganges, where we are working with local partners in not only preventing the leakage of plastic waste into the environment, but also bringing the current polluted Ganges in terms of plastic waste, those elements back into shore. So India is one of our focus areas. Southeast Asia, China and India is our key priority, recognizing that's where 80% of the current plastic pollution are coming from. You can find more information about our projects on our webpage, where we'll have an overview of all our activities. We are still a relatively young organization. As you mentioned, we only got created 12 months ago. We do have a number of projects up and running, but as we move ahead, there's no doubt in my mind that India will be an important area and an important country for us to engage in. I had personally scheduled a trip myself to India earlier this year, but due to the COVID situation, we were unable to carry that out. And one of the things that we wanted to focus on was not only looking at the ongoing projects, but also working with local communities, with the local governments and the national government in identifying where are the hotspots and where is it that we should come in and support efforts in terms of preventing plastic waste in the environment.
Thanks, Jacob. So we'll be keeping our eyes on the world's largest democracy. Always very exciting to see what's happening in this country with such a young population. We have another question from Dr. Zilke A. Kraviec. She is asking, do you also finance innovation projects of startups?
And I'm very happy and very proud in many ways to say, yes, we do. So we are working with two organizations right now. Plug and Play is one of them, where we are providing resources to work with startups in order to create a platform to incubate new ideas. We are running a number of programs. So again, here I would invite you to visit our webpage. But it's very exciting because this is about new ideas, bringing new solutions to the forefront. We've just run two sessions in Silicon Valley and in Paris, and we will now be running one here out of Singapore. And what we're doing here is we are inviting entrepreneurs, startups to come forward, present your ideas, and then we're helping you through certain processes and through the Plug and Play program to get into an incubator program. The objective from our side is to find the best ideas that we as an alliance can invest in, but also present those ideas to our member companies and to anyone for that matter who is interested in investing in new ideas that are coming forward. And I can add just to it that, I'm getting calls almost on a daily basis from venture capital and private equity saying, do you have ideas? Do you have solutions that we can invest in because we have the resources? So please do come forward. We want to work with those that are at the forefront when we talk innovation.
Thanks, Jacob. And we work also a lot with startups and universities. It's always very, very exciting to see that innovation, which is really sprawling away because they with a different perspective, also with Plug and Play. Cool. So keep those applications coming, startups. And we have a follow-up question, which actually is, I think, attached to that topic from Dr. Caroline Wolf. She is asking, how do you select the projects the Alliance invests in and which member to sponsor them?
So we have a strong projects team in the Alliance, and part of them are located here in Singapore, but they're still sitting in different parts of the world. And we're very fortunate as an alliance in many ways that not only do we have the capacity within our own organization, but we're also able to tap into the knowledge and the know-how of our member companies. And what we do is when we get a project in, and we have been operating under a submission scheme until now, we have received more than 600 project applications from potential interested partners over the last 12 months. And we have a very thorough process where we review the projects to see are they fully aligned with the objective that we have as the Alliance. And then we are looking at the ideas that are presented in the projects, the potential for funding, scalability, etc. So I would encourage you again here, since we have a very robust process, that if you are interested, if you have some ideas or a project for which you are seeking funding, please do visit our webpage, look at the type of activities that we are looking at funding. As we go forward now, we will be moving away a bit from the open call. As I said, we have received up to 600 applications now, but as we go forward, we will be issuing RFPs where we'll send out proposals or requests for projects that should come our way. We are defining now the thematic areas in which we will be working so that we can make sure that we are fully aligned with the objectives that we have set up for ourselves as an organization and as outlined in our strategy. The funding is coming from the Alliance. So as I mentioned, we have $1 billion that have been committed by member companies towards achieving the objective of the Alliance. And we are funding those that we believe are fundable and have the highest chance of having success and impact on the ground, but equally important, replicability or scalability.
Thanks, Jacob, and thanks, Caroline, for the great question. So let's stay tuned and let's follow the Alliance to End Plastic Waste and to see how this develops. Thanks, Jacob, so much for spending your time, your valuable time with us and having this live chat on social channels, which seems to be the norm. Tack för att tack för att du är med oss idag. Många tack, Jakob.
Seltak, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much also to Covestro for being one of the founding and very important partners of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste.
Tack, Jakob, and this really shows we shouldn't. I shouldn't speak Swedish, and you shouldn't talk Danish to me. This doesn't really work. Thanks so much, Jacob. Good to see you again, and keep in touch.
Thank you very much.
So, this was our episode of Home Office Talks. Thanks for joining us again. And remember to check out our previous episodes on YouTube. Stay tuned for more insightful guests, which we will have on our home office going forward. So, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned. Bye-bye.